Okay, Alexander is up. He says, "What's up, guys? Shit, I can't believe I lost to Marco's webinar. Damn." Question about selling networks. How do you guys approach the selling? You explain the syndication idea and then sell the network, sell links and use a network to it, or just sell the results. You'll rank, just post on the blog. I see the network selling as a huge opportunity to make money while getting new clients and learn more about SEO, semantic mastery style. All right, Alexander, the way that I sold them when I was selling a lot of networks to local businesses is I would come at it at more of the social media approach than SEO, because SEO, like, you start talking SEO with most local businesses and you're going to turn them off. Their eyes are going to glaze over, or they've already been, had some shitty experience with some idiot that didn't know what they were doing or whatever, and they've lost money, blah, blah, blah. So I try to approach it as more of the social media and the content marketing side of things. So what I do when I was selling a lot of networks to businesses, I would talk about, I would always ask questions. There's a great book, I believe it's called Spin Selling, and it's a way that you the process for like pitching and closing clients is asking questions to where you're asking them questions that leads them to actually answer your questions in a way that that leads them to realize that your solution is the best fit for them. And so what I would always do is start asking the business owner, or are you marketing? Are you doing any social media marketing? And most of the time people would say no. And I would ask them, may I ask you why you're not doing social media? And then they would tell me about how complicated it was. And there's too many different networks to post to. And it just takes too much time. And how are they supposed to do that when they're running their business? And all this, and you let them start talking about all these pain points as to why they're not doing it, even though that they know they should. Because you mentioned, you say that, like, are you doing social media marketing? Would you agree, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, that you should have a presence on Facebook and potentially Twitter and maybe even LinkedIn, depending on what type of business they have, and maybe have a YouTube channel, because there's so much traffic there and there's a lot of customers hanging out in those areas that need your products or services. Wouldn't you agree that it's pretty important to have a presence on those, and not just a presence, but be active on a regular basis? Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Well, why aren't you there then? May I ask what's preventing you or stopping you from having all of those working for you, 24-hour-a-day salesmen and saleswomen sending leads into your business without you needing to be there? Like, oh, because it's too complicated, there's too many properties, there's too much setup, I don't have the time, I'm running my business, somebody's got to manage all of those properties, blah, blah, blah. And that would be a perfect lead-in for me to say, well, what if I was to show you a way where we can get all of those properties populated with content consistently, and all you have to do is manage one property, meaning like your blog. And in fact, what if I was able to provide you your blogging services as well? Like, if you didn't even have to worry about that. What if we were to update your social media, all of your properties, and update your blog on a weekly basis, blah, blah, blah. That's what I would do. So Alexander, I didn't sell the networks as standalone networks, because that wouldn't do anything for the client, right? That wouldn't do anything for the business. I would always use it as a way to sell them on content marketing services, if that makes sense. Because I would tell them, what good is having a presence on all of these social media networks if you don't have content, right? You have to be posting regularly. And why, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, haven't you been, aren't you content marketing? You're aware of the fact that it's important to update social media properties. You know that it can provide results, but why aren't you doing it? Again, let them talk about all the reasons why it sucks and they hate it and they don't want to do it. But they know that it's valuable. Let them, that's the whole point, is you constantly allow them to keep talking themselves into why they need somebody to do it. And then you're that person. And so that's what I would do. I would always sell the networks as a front-end sale that would lead me to ongoing marketing services such as content marketing. Now, if it, obviously sometimes, a lot of the time, search engine rankings or positioning would come up, but I always try to approach it as a content marketing service more than anything else, because they seem to grasp that more than search engine optimization. You can use that as kind of an added benefit, right? My point is, you can sell it to them as a content marketing service, and this is going to be your syndication network, that your brand announcement channel, right? You can state it that way. You could say this is going to give you ubiquity, right? You're going to be ubiquitous on the web. Your brand is going to be all over the place, and your content is going to constantly be getting in front of people to remind them that you're there. because you've got this syndication network, and you're producing content and publishing content on a consistent basis that's useful or helpful or blah 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 to your customers and your services, your clients, your customers and clients, right? And then you could say, but as a benefit, for doing this, this being in front of people and getting your brand out there, out across the web, as many places as you can, as a benefit of that, you should also start to see your search rankings, your search positioning start to increase. So your rankings will improve. If we set it up correctly, we can get it to where that would be an added benefit. Like that's an additional benefit of being in front of your customers and building an audience. And so if you approach it that way, guys, that was the easiest way for me to sell them. And I mean, at the height of me selling syndication networks to local businesses, I would sell, anywhere between 6 to 10 of them a month. And I would sell them at $600 or $700 a piece. And I was outsourcing them for about $50. So, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in selling syndication networks. So just so you guys know, I remember there was a marketplace like SEO Clerks or something like that. I don't remember the name of the site, but I put up a listing. This is before Syndication Academy was made public, guys. This is when I was just using it for my own business. And I had already trained some virtual assistants to build them for me. And I was selling them to local businesses, but I put up a page, a sales page on one of these like SEO Clerks sites, or like Conquer. It's similar to that, right? And I put up a page that said, I'll build these IFTTT networks. I put the graphic up, and I sell like 200. I think I said 200, or maybe it was 199 or something like that per network. And I was outsourcing them at that point. I had virtual assistants full-time basically on staff, working for me for full-time, building networks. Some of those, by the way, those two original builders are still with us today. They're the SERP space builders now. They're one of them is the team leader actually, but this was, 4 years ago. And I put this listing up, and I said, I think it was $199 or something like that. And I had a guy from Australia contact me. He was an SEO agency owner, and he contacted me and said, "Man, I really like the idea of these things, these syndication networks. Would you be able to produce volume for me? Like if I was to buy 10 at a time, for example." And I was like, hell yeah. So I sold them 10 at a time, 10 networks at a time, just branded tier 1 networks, guys. I sold them 10 networks at a time for $1,000, so $100 per network. And I was outsourcing them for roughly $45 to $50 a piece. So I ended up basically doubling my money for doing nothing. I would just collect the details and send them over to my virtual assistants. And he was on a volume buyer. Like this guy ended up buying like 20, 30 networks a month for several months in a row. And so that was just another nice stream of income, just selling wholesale networks to an SEO agency. And it's just because all I did was have my virtual assistants that were building for me. I just kept feeding them the work. And this is something that you guys can do, because if you have access to Syndication Academy, we've told you, if you want to hire your own virtual assistants and put them through the training, do it. Like, we're totally cool with that, guys. You can buy them from us too, by the way, and you can just resell our own the networks that we build, and you don't even have to hire your own virtual assistants. And that's an even better way, because then you know that they're up to specs, to our standards. So anyway, just wanted to mention that because, again, Alexander, if you approach it from not an SEO standpoint, you'll scare more people away if you start mentioning links and backlinks and Google SEO and all that stuff. Approach it from a content marketing and a social media and brand building, a branding thing. If you do that, you'll end up landing more clients that way.
And okay. I would just add a caution: don't sell rankings. You can't do that. You can't guarantee them. Just guarantee traffic. You can guarantee results, just not traffic. I'm sorry, just not rankings. There's no way.